SOLIDWORKS 2023!
We are here to be inspired and to push the limits of our own imagination.
The virtual twin being experienced is so important, not only to understand the invisible today, but to project the future of tomorrow.
You are a community of 7 million designers, engineers, students, entrepreneurs who are shaping the world around us.
SOLIDWORKS allowed me to take what was in my brain and build it into something that millions and millions of people now can use.
Well, there's a whole lot more SOLIDWORKS than I thought there was.
It's actually quite nice to be able to raise your hand, ask a question, and learn hands-on with people.
What I mostly came here for was to learn new ways to use SOLIDWORKS in ways that I haven't thought of before.
The 3D experience is growing, and the SOLIDWORKS community is coming together. It's fantastic every year.
We have built the 3D experience board to meet all your needs. At Dassault Systèmes, we believe in building long-term relationships, and together we are going to change the world.
Every day we see SOLIDWORKS customers wanting to improve their core competencies in design and engineering, manufacture, communication, collaboration. And it's all for one reason. They want to deliver to their customers the best, most innovative product they can.
This building is 900,000 square foot. All those products are built in that one building.
Being able to use the factory flow simulation allows us to show those opportunities to those business unit leaders.
I know that you collectively can make a huge impact to our lives and to all those around us, a huge impact on the planet, a huge impact on the future. The end game, guys, is to improve life itself.
Meetings, I would like to eliminate meetings from my daily workflow. They tie up too much time when I could be modeling.
More of the mundane tasks of having to go through the vault and update file references.
Yes, the work part. Working with a lot of step files, so I get big step assemblies in for a lot of my projects, and I have to dig into the component level at that point, pull that component out, separate it out, and sometimes I forget if I'm working in the separated out that I've already detached from the assembly or if it's within that step.
Yeah, probably going to meetings that could be emails.
More time to design means more projects done.
I'd actually spend the time collaborating with my peers and getting their feedback, and then that would translate just to a better design overall, I think.
If I had more time for design, I think I would just get more of the ridiculous ideas in my head out in the world and just see what they look like.
We would be able to focus our time more on innovation.
I think I would definitely be working on more passion projects instead of just doing the normal everyday things, and really try to express myself through my design work.
XWorks 2023.
We are here to be inspired and to push the limits of our own imagination.
The virtual twin being experienced is so important, not only to understand the invisible today, but to project the future of tomorrow.
You are a community of 7 million designers, engineers, students, entrepreneurs who are shaping the world around us.
SOLIDWORKS allowed me to take what was in my brain and build it into something that millions and millions of people now can use.
Well, there's a whole lot more to SOLIDWORKS than I thought there was.
It's actually quite nice to be able to raise your hand, ask a question, and learn hands-on with people.
What I mostly came here for was to learn new ways to use SOLIDWORKS in ways that I haven't thought of before.
The 3D experience is growing, and the SOLIDWORKS community is coming together. It's fantastic every year.
We have built the 3D Experience board to meet all your needs. At Dassault Systèmes, we believe in building long-term relationships, and together we are going to change the world.
Every day we see SOLIDWORKS customers wanting to improve their core competencies in design and engineering, manufacture, communication, collaboration. And it's all for one reason. They want to deliver to their customers the best, most innovative product they can.
This building is 900,000 square foot. All those products are built in that one building.
Being able to use the factory flow simulation allows us to show those opportunities to those business unit leaders.
I know that you collectively can make a huge impact to our lives and to all those around us, a huge impact on the planet, a huge impact on the future. The end game, guys, is to improve life itself.
Meetings, I would like to eliminate meetings from my daily workflow. They tie up too much time when I could be modeling.
More of the mundane tasks of having to go through the vault and update file references.
Yes, the work part.
Working with a lot of step files, so I get big step assemblies in for a lot of my projects, and I have to dig into the component level at that point, pull that component out, separate it out, and sometimes I forget if I'm working in the separated out that I've already detached from the assembly or if it's within that step.
Yeah, probably going to meetings that could be emails.
More time to design means more projects done.
I'd actually spend the time collaborating with my peers and getting their feedback, and then that would translate just to a better design overall, I think.
If I had more time for design, I think I would just get more of the ridiculous ideas in my head out in the world and just see what they look like.
We would be able to focus our time more on innovation.
I think I would definitely be working on more passion projects instead of just doing the normal everyday things, and really try to express myself through my design work.
xWorks 2023.
We are here to be inspired and to push the limits of our own imagination.
The virtual twin being experienced is so important, not only to understand the invisible today, but to project the future of tomorrow.
You are a community of 7 million designers, engineers, students, entrepreneurs who are shaping the world around us.
SOLIDWORKS allowed me to take what was in my brain and build it into something that millions and millions of people now can use.
Well, there's a whole lot more to SolidWorks than I thought there was.
It's actually quite nice to be able to raise your hand, ask a question, and learn hands-on with people.
What I mostly came here for was to learn new ways to use SolidWorks in ways that I haven't thought of before.
The 3D experience is growing, and the SolidWorks community is coming together. It's fantastic every year.
We have built the 3D Experience board to meet all your needs. At Dassault Systèmes, we believe in building long-term relationships, and together we are going to change the world.
Every day we see SolidWorks customers wanting to improve their core competencies in design and engineering, manufacture, communication, collaboration. And it's all for one reason. They want to deliver to their customers the best, most innovative product they can.
This building is 900,000 square foot. All those products are built in that one building.
Being able to use the factory flow simulation allows us to show those opportunities to those business unit leaders.
I know that you collectively can make a huge impact to our lives and to all those around us, a huge impact on the planet, a huge impact on the future. The end game, guys, is to improve life itself.
Welcome to live here on the 3D Experience Works channel. So, hey, before we really get going here, just a bit of a PSA. If you look down at the subscribe button and it still says subscribe, there is something wrong. Hit the subscribe button. And please give this video a like, because we are in for a wild ride here today. So why is that? Well, as you watch this stream, you will watch someone get $30,000 and a big boom check. You will see one of the biggest announcements in recent SolidWorks history, and you will hear from an absolute legend who's attended World almost 20 times on how to actually get something out of going to industry conferences, and the reasons you need to tell your boss that going to 3D Experience World 2024 is an absolute must. Oh, and you're also going to learn exactly where that's going to be. So, hey, let's buckle in. And let's begin by welcoming on a guy that will candidly tell us exactly what he saw during his campaign as a host of the entire live event on the virtual side for the very first time ever, and that is Jesse Sprague. Jesse, welcome on this jam-packed live recap of 3D Experience World 2023.
Thank you, Sean. If I ever need a hype man for an episode, I'm calling you. That was great.
Well, I've had to contain this. I mean, we haven't been live together in a month. It's groundbreaking time. We used to just do this every single day. Like, are you ready for another 3-day sprint? Because I am.
I've been on my computer since 6. I've been waiting for you. I thought we were ready to go.
I've been up since yesterday. I've been up. No. No, I mean, as we have some clips here we'll show, as well as, right, we'll get to the announcements and everything we talked about at the beginning just now. But as we look back at some of our hosting moments, we had so many where we highlighted everything going on at 3D Experience World 2023. What are some of the things that stand out to you most with some distance now from the conference?
I mean, of course, live 3D Experience World itself, right? That was the notable thing going on in the whole conference, of course. No kidding, but I am grateful to have a chance to have done that with you. That was super fun, and it's cool to be able to try to distill something as big as a conference like that into something that we can share with as many people as possible who, you know, weren't able to attend. You know, that being said, though, I think the notable thing was got to be back in person, right? We've said it a million times at this point, but it was just so good to be physically back in person. We were just talking about the gallery of photos from the whole event, and it's just like permagrins on everybody's faces, right? It was just like, there's just like a collective sigh of relief, like, ah, man, we needed this. But, you know, being there in person, you've got just being back in the playground again was like, I forgot the feeling of like standing in the middle of the playground and just like looking around to like sponsor booths. And like, you know, we talked about the mech from Exosapien and the Maker Zone. Is just like, you take all of the coolest stuff you can think of, put it in one room, and then you stand in the middle. It's like, this is amazing.
That was wild. Yeah, that was insane. Yeah, and there's certain things that, like you said, in person, you cannot get a perspective of adequately just from watching a YouTube video, just from, you know, being online, or just from seeing a photo. The Exosapien was a perfect example. You have no idea of scale, so you're standing next to this thing, and you're like, this thing is humongous. I have no idea how much it weighs. It certainly weighs more than my car. That is a baseline, but like, I didn't know if it was like this big or as big as it actually is, which is humongous, until I got there.
Yeah, so cool to see that stuff in person.
Yeah, absolutely. So you guys, though, the attendees today, like, thank you so much for watching, and you might be watching today, you know, watching from your cubicle, watching from your office, and you might be thinking like, I'm about to feel some major FOMO right now, some major FOMO vibes, and you might be thinking like, I need some real tangible reasons other than these amazing stories, other than these announcements that we're about to get, other than the recaps we're about to see, all that good stuff to show, you know, my boss, my company, why it's worth it for me to spend just a few days away from the office next year in, well, a city to be named later in this episode. But what about if you heard it from someone, let's say, who works at Halliburton, you know, big time engineering company, someone who's a senior engineer, and someone who's gone to World and convinced their employer 19 years, almost 20 years. You've guessed it. We have you covered. Last week, I was lucky enough to hear from Joe Lance, a friend of mine, a SOLIDWORKS user group leader as well, longtime SOLIDWORKS user group leader, SOLIDWORKS champion, about what keeps him coming back to 3D Experience World almost 2 decades in, and what keeps him going professionally and personally. Let's take a look at that. Joe, welcome to live here on the 3D Experience Works YouTube channel. How you doing?
Doing awesome. What an honor. It's good to see you, my friend.
Oh, an honor for you. It's an honor for me. I feel like everyone in the community knows who you are. You've been part of the community for so long, but you know, for our newer viewers, our newer viewers here on the 3D Experience Works YouTube channel, just tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do.
I've been using the software for probably longer than most of you have been alive, since 95. So that's the scary thing. I'm also a CSWP. I got my CSWP in 2000. Again, back when it was a truly all-day test, and that was just crazy when you think about it, where we are today. But over the years, I've moved from a designer to an advisor to a mentor. As I wind my career down, been doing it for so long, my role now really consists of being a mentor, an advisor, kind of trying to get the next generation up to speed of what to expect and what to do with the company. So I'm honored.
Yeah, even walking the corridors at 3D Experience World, and you know, Jesse and I, you know, we were at the live desk for most of it. But I saw even there, I remember I was standing up in between sessions. You know, maybe we were talking to Titan or, you know, someone else.
Right.
And I turned around and I saw someone introduce themselves to you and just go to shake your hand immediately. Because I think they just probably gotten so much from you over the years. And that's one of the special parts about going the world, right? It's like you get to meet people that have had an effect on you from all over the world. But that was kind of a snapshot that stayed in my mind that I remember seeing.
Right.
But World's a huge event, right? Like how long, it's for anyone who's never been there, it's like the sort of Disney World of SolidWorks and everything else, right? Engineering content, simulation, technical content, manufacturing, thousands of people all doing relatively the same sorts of things as you are.
Right.
How long have you been attending World, Joe?
Wow. And probably one of the disadvantage of attending as long as I have is just trying to remember the longevity of this thing. But really, I've been attending for 19 years. Can you believe
19.
that? And that's and even in that 19, there was one unofficial one that I attended. You kind of know what that was all about.
Yeah.
That was the one that was supposed to happen in Atlanta, and it didn't. Then move it back to headquarters, and so overall, it's been 19 years. It's crazy to think that I've been attending this, and that's been 19 consecutive years from the first time consistently. And
yeah. So World U is able to, if you were a person, if that were a person, you'd be able to do a lot of things in our society at age 19.
Yeah.
I mean, nonetheless, and on a serious note, you've seen a lot of different transformations. Not only in the event offerings, the name, of course, has changed. It's expanded, right? There's a ton of SolidWorks content still, but then there's even more, right? We have the Maker Zone now, which I know we didn't have the first year, but you were an event ambassador this past year, right? You met a ton of first time attendees. What would you tell someone who's like, hey, maybe I should try to spend a few days out of the office in 2024 to attend the event? What would you tell them that's really special about World these days?
Actually, it's interesting that you bring that up. As you mentioned, during World, you guys were positioned. I liked the way they had it arranged. There was a registration desk, there was a hive, and then you guys were just up from that. So you can, like you said, when you got tired of sitting, you can stand and you can kind of get a good perspective of what was happening. So just before you got to where you guys were, I was at the registration desk for a while, and I really positioned myself there, knowing what I experienced 19 years ago. And I stood at once they picked up their badge and they were coming out, it was so easy for me to spot the newbies, right? So, as they come through, I would just look in their eyes and I could immediately tell. So my first interaction with them is like, this is your first time, right? And they would look at me, and if they would look and they would smile. So when I got that smile, I know it was a breakthrough already.
You were right. Your sensor was spot on.
Yeah. And I would just engage. I would basically say, look, the first thing you need to do is just clear your head. Don't overthink it. Just clear your head. And the reason you need to clear your head, because by the time you leave, you're going to need the space, because you're going to gather so much information. But more importantly, just relax, right? And just engage, right? And get comfortable with eavesdropping into conversations, because that's where you're going to get the majority of insight. It was just it was so. And when I said that, I can see the pressure just dissolving. That there was this thinking, wow, someone understands what I'm dealing with right now without me saying a word. And that's the whole thing. Just engage. It's the camaraderie is crazy, because you got thousands of people that thinking and saying the same thing. So there's nothing you can say that's wrong. Just be your natural self.
That's your experience. That's your perspective. And I think one thing you just mentioned, I wanted to really spotlight, because I feel like it deserves to be said. And I don't see it being said enough, just at networking events in general. I think a lot of us were brought up, and maybe rightfully so, in some contexts, it's probably true, that eavesdropping is probably not something you want to be doing all the time. But at networking events, especially those of us who haven't been to many of them, and surely I have to remind myself of this even now. You're a user group leader, right, Joe? You've been to World 19 years, which is crazy. But eavesdropping is actually a device, an acceptable device, right? It's like you're trying to find your way tangentially into a conversation, and you're all there to make connections. So if you overhear something as you're walking by, it's like someone's talking about cameras, making engineering content, or someone's talking about, manufacturing certain types of parts, or like, have you used a metal 3D printer before? Like, what kind do you have? Oftentimes, like, that's the best way to be like, hey, yeah, I couldn't help it over here. My name's Sean. I have some perspective to share on that you might like. And that's a perfect, places like conferences, user group meetings, that's a great way to do it. So I wanted to highlight that because that's a great point.
Yeah. And I mean, it's because when you're having a conversation, you may have someone that's passing by and stop and they chime into that conversation. And at first couple of times, you may think, well, I don't know this person. Doesn't matter, right? Because
a lot of us, you don't know most of the people. That's true.
Exactly right. You have thousands of people, and that's how the networking works. You introduce yourself, but I tell the guys, I'm like, I know before you came, you went online and you picked the session that you want to attend. I'm like, that's just to structure yourself. So when you arrive, you have an agenda. But that's a small portion of where you're going to get all of the tips and tricks from. You're going to have a lot more happening in this environment. Go down to the hive. I mean, can you feel that buzz going on, right?
Yeah.
That's the hive that's buzzing. And it's not just a hive, it's just a place that we can help to guide you. But the whole event is a hive, it's buzzing consistently.
It's so true. And that's one of the things that I wanted to ask you about, particularly that you mentioned you've been in the world so many different times. And I would say, in the scope of this past year, this particular aspect, the in-person aspect, really felt special. It's one thing, like you said, to structure yourself. And I do that all the time. It's important to have some idea of what your schedule could look like. Take in some serendipity sometimes, maybe change out a session. If you hear a good tip, then maybe go to a different afternoon session. Sure, right. I get that. But, in terms of the in-person experience, places like the Hive, what are some of the things you've really loved over the years, and maybe even this past year, things that you just couldn't possibly do virtually? Like, I know just to start off, like, you've been involved with a runners club, right, for years. Yeah. I don't think you can do that virtually. But what are some of those sorts of things that you've really taken in and appreciated about the in-person side?
No, and that's exactly right. And even with the running group, we have a select few that have been doing the running for quite some time. And typically, I mean, just to give an example, what happened this time, we normally kick off the running group starting a Sunday or the Monday, I believe it is. But I typically arrive early to participate in the alpha testing. So I went for a run Saturday morning, and when I got downstairs, there was a gentleman going out for a run. So I mentioned to him, I'm like, hey, are you heading out for a run? He said, yeah, but I'm going to run a 5K. Are you going to the same event? I'm like, I didn't even realize it was a 5K this morning. So I was the only one that particular morning. So I gave it some thought. I'm like, well, how far is it? It's 2 miles away. So I hopped the Uber. I went to the event. I ran the 5K. I took in my age group at first place. So it was a cold morning, but that was a great way to kick off the event. And from that, every morning up until the end of it, we will meet down in a lobby. We'll pick a hotel to meet, and we'll meet down there. And almost every morning, you got someone extra coming in. Didn't know that we were running. So that's just the start of it, right? That's what better way to start the day. Get them out for a nice brisk run, get the head clear. It's just crazy. But yeah, those are some of the things that you don't get at a virtual event. You can't, like the term we just used, you can't eavesdrop when I'm on this call with you, right? We're doing that. It's specifically just you and I or someone else that's in that meeting. But the other 3,000 or 4,000 people that's buzzing by, you don't get to hear those conversations. So you miss out on a lot of the networking. And those are some of the things that you just can't possibly get without doing that. So it's just so much information.
That personally was one of my favorite parts about the event. Any one of us, we don't know most of the people there. That's always going to be true. I think there's only so many people you can say that you know. Right. But even, I would walk by and I would see two people that maybe I happen to know in some cases, that I knew didn't know each other before, like maybe that morning. And I was like, that is just so cool that you guys get to meet and talk. And, you know, there's a temptation to walk up to, you're like, there's two people I know, maybe I should go join the conversation. But in a lot of cases, I just walk by. I was just like, you guys are connecting. I'm not going to disrupt this. Like,
that's exactly right. So I have to throw this out there. What's totally not fair, right, is like, kind of like you said, you got up, you saw someone, came up to me and said, "Hi, Joe." They shook my hand. So I have to say, the thing that's not fair is that during all of the Zoom meeting, you know, we're seeing just a face shot, right? A picture shot, right? So I have people come up and like, "Hey, Joe, how you doing?" I look out and look out, I know the face, but I can't call the name. Well, it's totally not fair because they can say, "Well, that's Joe, the black bald guy. That's got to be Joe, right?" That's not even fair, right? I'm like, I know that guy, but I can't place him. But again, to your point, it's we've been meeting for virtually for a couple of years, and there's so many faces, so many pictures that you've seen, and when you see someone, you're trying to like, who is that?
You're going through the mental Rolodex of your contact.
I'm trying to recall. So it was really like I refer to it as a family reunion. You're getting back together, and with this, it was just being rejuvenated, and it seemed like it took me a longer time to recover because there was so much hype put into this to get back together, and it worked. I mean, this was just jam packed. It seemed like it's been forever, and I think everyone was just waiting to just make that connection again.
Absolutely. You know, we use a phrase around here. It's FOMO, right? Fear of missing out. In 2023, right? It's happened. But like you said, the world happens pretty much every year, right? It happens every single year. Next year, we already know we're going to be in Dallas again, February in 2024. So this year is in Nashville, next year in Dallas. What are you most excited about for 2024's world?
Well, Sean, I have to say, you're coming back to Texas, brother.
Yeah, I can see that. So, Joe, you're from Texas, right? So you're probably excited about that.
So, but it's really good to see that we get an opportunity to come back to Texas. We've been here before, and I thought it was a very good event here. And it's just good to see that we're revisiting some of the places that we know that worked, and just to a familiar ground and from a familiar place. So I'm excited about that. It's really good. It's really good to be back to Texas. And you know how we do it in Texas, right? You know the saying, we do it all. We always do it big in Texas. So you know it's going to be.
I hung out with you pretty recently in Texas, right? For when we went to go visit Titans of CNC, and it was an awesome time. But hey, Joe, I always love talking to you. I wanted to, just before we go, I wanted to give you an opportunity. If there's any, I know you have your user group, right? But any your group, any causes you care about, anything you want to give a shout out to before we go.
Well, thanks, Sean. And again, before I end, I really want to thank you guys for all you do. It's really amazing. I think for you being always the interviewer and always kind of caught behind the desk, I can imagine before you got to that role, you remember what you got to experience. And in one sense, you're missing a lot of that. But I want to assure you that what you're doing for the community, I hope you don't mind giving that up to provide the content that you are to us that we can access anytime. It means a lot, and I really, really appreciate that. But thanks for giving me an opportunity. I'm involved in a lot of charity event. It's not just Whirl. I'm also I'm on the board of the Ballot House. What the Ballot House in Texas is, as you know, at the medical center in this area is very elite, and we have people that come in from all over the world. And when you're here for a medical treatment, typically the cost is outrageous. We put you up, your family up at no cost, because the stress of dealing with the medical condition that you're dealing with the family, typically the cost of hotel is crazy. So being on the board of a Ballot House, again, it's a charity that I help funnel that and help the things that they do at the Ballot House. I'm part of that, part of the board there. Part of the things that I do, it's a charity cause. I feel that I've been blessed with several gifts, and the purpose of having a gift is we're willing to share with the community. So it's not just about the SOLIDWORKS community, it's throughout your life. I'm a marathoner, and God knows I can't say enough by that. You all know that I run a lot. I'm blessed with that gift. I can still run at my age. I'm blessed with that. But the 3D experience world, it's a lot like the marathon, because in a marathon, when I finish a marathon, there's always someone that comes up behind me several seconds after I finish, or minutes, and they will shake my hand and said, I want to thank you for pulling me through what you just did. And I had no idea what they were behind me. That's so in line with what we do with 3D world experience. It's the same type of thing. Someone that you helping, you don't even know they're helping. When you give a certain teacher class, you never know who's picking up on that. So those are the things that we do. It's the camaraderie. It's always there. What I have to thank my employee Halliburton, because they've given me an opportunity to be employed with them for over 40 years. And 19 of those years, I've been granted permission to attend World consistently. Not all companies do that. We all know that. If you're having problem with getting to come to 3D World Experience, you should reach out to your user group, reach out to me. We have in place a justification letter to assist you in getting there. We can definitely help with that as well. Last but not least, I have to give thanks to my roadie. My roadie is my wife. She's patiently put up with me. I skipped one. I'm sorry, let me go back. MS 150 is an annual ride that I do. It's a 2-day ride. It's typically a 200-mile ride. I challenge you in your workday, some of your friends, ask if they know anyone that has MS. You will be surprised of how MS is affecting so many people that's in your loop, in your cycle, that you don't even know it. I raise funds for that as a charity, but it's not about giving me a donation. It's about helping the MS. And once you start bringing that subject up, you'll find that there's people very close to you, that's in your family, that's being affected by that disease. And again, I can ride. I give back to that community as well. And I'll go back to my roadie. I have to give thanks to Dot, because I think she's been to most of the events at World. She understands what's happening. She knows that when I'm at World. She does her own thing, and if she gets bored and doing her own thing, she comes out and then support and help the community as well. So she's my traveling partner, my AV partner, but she's always got my back. So I want to give very thanks to her.
Awesome. Well, Joe, thank you so much for, I think, showing the community what it looks like to be a full human being. I think it's one thing I wanted to say, right? It's like we talk so much about SOLIDWORKS, 3D Experience, even the groups kind of surrounding it, and they're all important and they're great, but showing the community what it is to be a real human being a leader in so many different ways. We'll put some links in the chat as well, just on some of your causes, just informationally, but
sure.
Once again, thank you so much for stopping by. It's always a pleasure.
Yeah, thank you, Sean.
That was one of the things that, just talking to Joe, and thank you so much to Joe. I know you're out there watching. Thank you so much for stopping by. I know you have a busy work schedule. So just making the time to speak with us. But that's a big thing. There was so much there, right, Jesse? But I think one of the big takeaways for me in that conversation was, we talked about how we say Zoom as an analog or as a pseudonym almost for virtual experiences, right? We so often, but a lot of the stuff that Joe said in terms of different things you could do at World, different things he does, different types of experiences, different ways you can network. You really can't get that virtually. You just can't.
Yeah, we do our best, but there's only so much we can bring you.
Yeah, and that's what makes it really special. And there's a lot of fun stuff, right? And sometimes it's serious stuff, sometimes fun stuff, right? There's a lot of different types of experiences that you can have at World, and I know for you personally, this was your first World in person as a team member here. So from your purview, right, as a host of live at 3D Experience World, what were some of the fun things that you feel we got to do that really had nothing to do with things like software or really presentations at all?
Yeah, it was definitely a different experience, like you say, being kind of behind the curtain, so to speak, or whatever. But I really liked the early end of stuff, getting set up. I always enjoyed like when we were having events and whatever in past lives, getting like that excitement of build up, getting things set up. So it was cool to see, the setup of an event this big was like even more exciting. Watching our setup get built for live, watching just the structure go up, and it's like, oh, this is so cool. I'm getting so excited already, like that. The jitters of excitement, obviously having attended in the past, like knowing what's coming, and then being able to like to see all that setup come up and like, getting ready, having those days of anticipation, getting ready was really cool. I enjoyed that aspect. But yeah, and I mean, it's kind of one of those things where I think in the middle of that interview with Joe, and if we could just have Joe come back on, I could just listen to him talk for the rest of the episode.
Yeah,
but,
right.
He in the middle of there, he said he was, talking to the new people and just said like, relax and engage. And I like that because like it seems like there really is no wasted time at an event like that. Like it doesn't even matter what specifically you're doing. I feel like no time there gets wasted. We had team dinners and things like that. And for us, for our team, we're scattered all over the country. So it's one of the few times that we actually get to come together. But I feel like even for those folks that still work in an office together and then show up to World together, you still get like a different experience when we're together at an event like that. It's something different. You're networking with other people, maybe with other colleagues, or you're just building bonds with your coworkers and things like that. There really isn't any wasted space in there, and I think that's pretty cool with an event like that.
Yeah, and then for the attendees here, like don't get us wrong, and I don't think you are, right? Any of you, I'm sure, but there surely are many opportunities to learn. There are hundreds. It's one of the first things we said when we started day one, right? We came right out of the gate going crazy. Like there's hundreds of SolidWorks sessions here to like learn anything you want.
Yeah.
Anything about 3D experience, anything about partner products, different ways of doing things in industry that don't even have to do with software, but just more practice based. So there's so much. If we could even just show the clip that we just have, there's so many ways to have fun. This clip right here that we just showed, if we could just show it again, of just people being super silly. So the clip this one right here. So we were talking about the Exosapien. We have people making cosplay costumes. This is Master Chief, the Master Chief costume that was made by Brad Thompson and Impact Props. This is actually some B-roll of a video that he created on his channel. He has like over 1 million subscribers now. Well-known SolidWorks user, Brad is. But just shows some of the fun stuff that have nothing to do with SolidWorks or XDesign or Simulia or anything. Like, you can learn anything you want to about any of that stuff and how people are using it, make industry connections. But like doing a Hot Ones challenge, this guy, first time attendee, decides to just take in like all this hot sauce in one shot. I don't know what he was thinking. I don't
know how I can't do spicy. So I was impressed with you with the one chip, and that's beyond me.
Yeah, and like you have these moments where it's like you never know. Like Manish, he's the CEO of SolidWorks. He might just sit down and do a one chip challenge, and he laughed at me because I don't know. I took a smaller chip than he did, or something like that.
Yep. You should have fallen on that one for him, I think.
I guess so. That's what he says. But as I told him, we had to talk the rest of the day, you and I. So had to spare myself.
Right.
Spare the rest of you.
Right. Yeah, I'd get charred on one side if you're breathing fire for the rest of the episode.
But yeah, it's always great to have silly fun. You can have a lot of that, and it's great when you get to have fun while doing great things as well. And that's something a big theme of what Joe was saying. And we, as well as some of the attendees, we got to do that this year with organizations like Magic Wheelchair, and we talked about the $30,000 reveal. Joe revealed that we will be in Dallas this upcoming year in 2024. But I teased that part to $30,000 pretty hard in the intro of this episode. Like we gave away $30,000 in day 3 for a really good cause, and we're going to speak on Magic Wheelchair and how you as attendees can do some good with your design chops, no matter where you are, a little later in this episode at a bit more of an elongated level. But Jesse, what was one of your biggest feel-good moments of the conference?
Yeah, I mean, there's always a lot of those, right? I kind of like all of the people that we partner with that do things to get technology out to people who don't have it. We always talk about, democratizing tools and things like that. So I always love like the makerspace and people who are, designing machines that will rebuild other machines so you can get them to places where they can, build their own resources to do things. I always think that kind of stuff is really cool. But of course, like something that kind of struck me in speaking to what I said earlier in this episode about just being back in person was just seeing people back in their element again. When we were at the desk, I think in our day 3 wrap up, maybe I was talking about how it doesn't really feel like, we as a company like put this on. It's like the whole community comes together and just puts it on together. There was 350 or something presenters that we had. So, seeing those people back and teaching their courses and seeing our team doing the skit and like just seeing people back in their element was just so cool again, to see the smile on their face, just sharing knowledge with people, with the community again. That definitely stuck out to me. But specifics, I mean, you'd be hard not to say Todd White in Sailor. That was such a cool story. That one definitely sticks out to me. Joe was just talking about bringing up next generations and seeing Sailor go in there and load up the machines herself and run all of that stuff was so cool. And I think that definitely touched a lot of people. I think I remember seeing Marie Blanchard comment in there, like, why am I crying right now? Like memories of her dad teaching her stuff like that. And that was a cool story. I enjoyed seeing that. And you got a chance to talk to them, of course.
Yeah, and I can't imagine that we won't continue to up the ante in terms of different experiences that we create for younger generations at the event 3D Experience World, which is hard to believe, right? That was the second in-person 3D Experience World ever, and it certainly elevated things from where we were in 2020, right? 2020 through 2023. Sailor, right? I didn't see too many kids like her running around in 2020.
No,
but Sailor runs over to
you
the
might not again. I think she's pretty special, but totally.
Yeah, she is. She's super special. Apparently has these business ideas, like Mike Buckley was saying on main stage, and she doesn't want to reveal them. And I don't blame her. Usually, people have business ideas. I'm like, they're not that special.
Keep them under wraps.
Yeah, but hers, I don't. I'm sure they're amazing. Like, I'd be afraid of having them stolen myself. But yeah, it's so cool. Like you're saying, being back in person and. Thinking of that, like one of the reasons that conferences like a 3D Experience World, they're so special as an attendee is because you do have that opportunity to get it as involved as you want to be in the culture of the event, as we've been talking about here. And this year, every attendee, right, they had a chance to attend a bash of an event, really get together in a really fun, sort of almost familial way, bash an event at the Bash on Broadway with connections that, like Joe was saying, like, they either brought to the event or maybe they made earlier during a technical session that day. So let's actually take a look at some of the partying we did at one of the biggest party destinations here in the U.S. in Nashville.
I hope you had fun on Broadway last night, reconnecting with old friends, meeting some new ones. I know I did. And I actually think I see some glow sticks and some, yes, you were on Broadway last night. I know you had some fun.
That was an awesome time. You can get into some trouble. We were actually with Tracy back the day of, the night of, I should say, the Bash on Broadway. I think she brought us to like a silent dance party on Broadway. Did you partake in that? Which and we had different headsets, right? Like we had some headsets had certain, so they had different headsets for different types of music. You
have different colors.
Yeah, different colors. I was wondering, there's some blue ones, some green ones. Some were playing country music, some were playing Outkast. So I'm not really a big country music fan, so I put on some Outkast, and I was like,
same.
But it's so funny walking into that because there's no music, and then you just see everyone just like dancing around.
Yeah, I've heard of those, but I've never been to one before. Have you done one of those before?
No, I heard same thing. I heard of one. And it's kind of fun. It was really interesting because you're in the city of music, right? And I feel like GP is always saying that whenever he's talking about Nashville, city of music, right? And anywhere you went in Broadway, and every city has its cultural fabric. There's tons of cool stuff in Dallas that we'll get into. But with Nashville specifically, like you would go on Broadway any time of day, 2 p.m. on a Tuesday. You walk in, someone's like, "Hey, I'm just a Spotify artist." Like I was saying to you, like I only have 2 million streams, but I'm happy to be here with you guys. Feel really grateful for that. I'm like, wow, this is like the best musician that you could find within a hundreds of or thousands of mile radius, like anywhere in the world, and they're just here. And then there's another talented musician, uber talented musician, the next place over. It was just awesome.
Yeah, for sure. There, like you said, you can't go anywhere without bumping into another musical happening.
Yeah, and those events are cool. Like we were saying, culturally, getting involved in all these different types of experiences. But sometimes at a conference, you just want to be able to be around your people that are in maybe your skill bracket, your demographic. They have experiences at work like the experiences that you have, and for some of us, getting into another area of the event, some of us that means less than 1% of worldwide SOLIDWORKS users, like the tippy top, right? As CSWEs, I'm grateful to be able to say, and I know you are too. We're CSWEs, but this is the first CSWE event in a while, right? Talk to me, Jesse, about the CSWE event.
Yeah, that was a ton of fun. So we talked to like Puckhead, of course, at the desk about looking forward to that, and then obviously we got to go to it. It was a cool little spot. It was a Pins Mechanical. I guess there's a few of them around the country. I don't know exactly how many of them there are, but yeah, kind of a cool like arcade spot. They had pinball and like arcade games and duck pin bowling, I think is called, like the tiny little miniature ones where you use like a tiny little ball. That was kind of fun, like a really like short lane.
That was cool.
Lots going on in there. I bumped into a bunch of people that I hadn't talked to in quite a long time, and met a few new people there that night. So that was a ton of fun. I enjoyed that. Did you have a good time?
I had a great time. I remember as we were leaving, it was amazing. You assume everyone, I don't know. I got my CSWE, I would say maybe 8 years ago at this point, but the test has been renewed at this point. Like there's a new version of the test, which I know Mike often talks about that. So just updating it, making it more relevant for industry cases. But I met someone at the event right before we left, and we were there for hours, but right before we left, who said that they had just passed their CSWE earlier that day at the event.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
just the cutoff.
Yeah, and it sounds like I'm making this up, but I'm not. And it was like right as I was leaving, and they were talking with me. We were like just talking about different, like when I took the test, it was like this, and like what did you find most challenging? So it was really neat to be able to just be in that sort of area where we all have that one thing, at least that one thing in common. Then you just sort of branch out into other facets, but. Whether you're a CSWE or whether you're a CSWP, or whatever, the World Conference it's long been a place, right, to get feedback from each other, get feedback, especially from our side, right, here at SOLIDWORKS and Dassault Systèmes from the user community. And as we network together, one question that we decided to ask, because we're in front of a lot of designers, right, Jesse, was what would you do if you had more time to design? Because after all, right, it's 2023. It's probably easier than ever to get more distracted than ever. So let's take a look actually and some of these are really good, at some of the answers that we got from actual conference goers.
The Navy. I do reverse engineering for parts that are really hard to find. We scan old parts and get replacements. If I had more time for design, I wouldn't be tearing my hair out as much. Designing is the fun part of the job, and going to meetings, going to presentations, I spend so much time just creating a PowerPoint presentation. I'll be like spend 3 days on it, and then go to a meeting, it'll be on screen for 10 seconds. So I could better use my skill sets.
Yeah, and of course, at the beginning, right, at the beginning of this episode, kind of in the countdown, as you can go and rewatch, we had even more of those, and we'll continue to show those and release those kind of throughout the year. I think we had, I don't know, like maybe 30 or 40 plus just instances of what people would do and how they would stretch their imaginations and take on new projects or whatever it was.
That was a really fun prompt. It was fun to see. There was a pretty wide variety of answers too. I was surprised. I kind of thought, maybe people would say kind of the same things, but it wasn't. There was a lot of cool answers in there.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what I would say. It's hard because, like, if you're, I don't know, I would be tempted to say I would just design more. Like I wouldn't be that creative about it. But you're right. Like there's so many different answers. Like if I could have less meetings, if I could do this. And like you get to see there's so many different ways even people take those questions, and it's just illustrative of like the different types of minds that we have at the event too. Like I thought that was really
absolutely.
But outside there's so many things going on, right? Like outside the event corridors at World, outside the hallways where we had a lot of those interviews. we have the training rooms, we have the hands-on test drive rooms, where you get to sit with someone that's been flown in from a different part of the world who's an industry expert on whatever we're teaching on. We have these huge rooms, right, with these giant stages. Think general session, right, where we get to hear from exciting, inspiring industry leaders of today and tomorrow. And it's interesting, like you think about a keynote, and Jesse, you and I had a front row seat to these. It's like you have minutes to deliver a keynote, and you have thousands of people all over the world watching them. Yeah. Let's actually take a look at that. Let's get a rundown of some of the most inspiring speakers as we progress throughout this episode that we had at the conference, the entire conference, just 1 month ago.
Awesome. Manufacturing, yeah. Woo! It really started back in 2010. I was working with SpaceX, making incredible parts, solving those problems. Working with Blue Origin, building the BE-3 engine and machining the Monel and inking on titanium parts with the engineers.
Please welcome Fabio on stage. Ciao Fabio, welcome. Thank you for coming.
Thank you, thank you. First of all, let me say that what we try to do is to bring physical products and companies to market at the speed of what happens with digital work typically.
Welcome. So Aaron, can you tell us about your journey and where you see yourself going in future?
Yeah, absolutely. As you said, it's really been a full circle moment for me to be here again. I'm sure a lot of you, just like I did, learned SolidWorks in your mechanical engineering classes in college. And for me, this was the first time I really saw that creative spark in engineering.
A company is usually not one product. And so if you build, if I innovated the doorbell and I said, we're going to be the best doorbell, like we're going to be the best video doorbell company in the world. If I had done that, we'd probably still be a pretty small company.
Sure.
What made Ring big was not the doorbell. It was the doorbell, the floodlight camera, the Neighbors app, which is not even a product, like a service. And putting it all together, the soup, putting all the ingredients together made a soup that was the most delicious.
I remember being so excited putting in the last part and taking it out. It was so fun. So excited.
So how many parts did you run on that? Do you remember?
I think it was about 200.
So thoughts? So much there.
There she was, putting her parts in the machine. I love that part.
Mike Buckley is one of my favorite coworkers here. He pretty much is the leader of our manufacturing domain. I would say at work. He is the face of it, right? He runs manufacturing live. Obviously he just did such a great job. She was a pro. She's super comfortable.
Yeah, I think at the desk you were saying you and I get nervous. She's up there on main stage at 10 years old, just giving a keynote casually.
Yeah, so it's so cool. You get to see we were just saying leaders of today and tomorrow. Joe said it too, right? It's it's such an important part of the conference. And yeah, I mean even as you look at some of the leaders of today, like Jamie Siminoff of Ring, I got so much out of his keynote, so much out of being able to talk to him, and I was so glad to be able to show that to you guys on live. Him sitting down at the desk and asking more free-form questions instead of having the keynote format be the only thing we heard.
Yeah, I've watched that interview back a couple of times. That was a great one.
Yeah, it was awesome. He gave so many cool perspectives. I caught him, I think right after he got off stage, and talking about pre-awareness. If you're thinking about making a company or making a product, or even if you're an entrepreneur and you're trying to just be inventive in your own company, your own role, that is one you definitely, like you're saying, Jesse, definitely want to watch back. What were some of your favorite takeaways? I think from just what he said, because I know you and I both shared that we just loved his appearance overall.
Yeah, I mean, you talked about pre-awareness, but I feel like his just awareness of the market in general is just so good. He had so many great insights in that one. I really enjoyed watching it back. The pre-awareness one, that definitely stuck out to me too, because I feel like that's something that people don't always think about. I've got this great thing. Well, what am I going to do with it? I don't know. Nobody knows what it is. Nobody knows how they're going to use it. And it might be the greatest thing, but you can't explain to somebody it efficiently enough to get them interested in something. And so working with those things and talking about how he kind of spread things out to where it wasn't the product wasn't even the focus really. It was just the mission, in your interview with him, he's very mission driven, right? So it was kind of the mission that led to all of these other things that Ring does that made the company successful. That was a great interview.
Yeah. And one other thing I got out of that is just his resilience. You know, like you go back and you can watch that Shark Tank episode, you know, when he was introducing Doorbot, and he said it, he's very candid about it. And I appreciate that about him, that, you know, and he was talking about reinventing the doorbell, or the next iteration of a doorbell. And that being one of the, at least physical premises, the product-based premises of what he was doing. You know, from first appearances, at least, like, you know, Shark Tank, that appearance wasn't great for him. Like, at least at that very moment. Yeah. Purely, you know, he built it into Ring and everything we know Ring to be. I think it one of the most lucrative acquisitions by Amazon in history. But when you look at that and the resilience that one has to have to really stick to it, you know, he was running Doorbot, I think, out of his garage. He was saying, that stuff's like, that's why you want to go and listen to keynotes. And that's why you want to go to spaces like this, to be in the room and to be able to experience that. Like that was so cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, so he talked day one. We had Liv Bory, who I didn't show, but you can go back and watch Liv. I loved her talk on, you know, analytical thinking and thinking in numbers. You know, that was day 3 keynote. But what was in the middle? Like we changed things up actually a good bit this year. When you think about previous years, 3D Experience Worlds, you know, when it came to general session specifically, right? So on day 2, instead of having yet another general session, you know, including every type of industry domain applicable to our community, like trying to smash in design, but also simulation, manufacturing, data management, all that. Like we actually split things up on day 2. So, you know, what did that mean? We had a largely attended session all about design. And then we had another one that was concurrently there with simulation. That was all about simulation, with its own speakers, its own industry leaders, its own announcements. All about manufacturing, and the replays are all still available on the SOLIDWORKS YouTube. But Jesse, what were some of your takeaways from you know, some of these hyper targeted sections?
Yeah, I really like the changes actually that we made this year. We talked about at the desk, like the conference hug, moving the general session to the end, so you kind of get like those end caps, and then obviously, like you said, the domain sessions. I really liked the format of the domain sessions. I don't know how much of those you sat through, but to me, they really kind of hit that sweet spot of like targeted information, but it was also kind of a good blend in there. You know, sometimes you go to a general session and it's like, okay, this is like really high level stuff, or like, you know, things that are way far out. That's cool to see, but it's like, I don't know when or where this is going to apply to me. And then you step down to those domain sessions, and those domain sessions had a little bit of that, but then in like a focused track too, like you said, right? So it's split out. So we've got design, simulation, manufacturing. So you know all of the information is going to be pertinent to you, and then it's just sort of like a timeline or a spectrum of information in those. I thought those were really well organized. They had, you know, panels in most of them. So there was customers that came in, they shared their stories of like, you know, this is how I'm using the tools in this arena to do what we need to do. And it's, you know, it's always good for somebody, you know, if as I was as a customer, like, you know, relating to people who are doing similar things, right? You can sit there all day and listen to us as the software company saying, this is what we think you should do, right? But when you're hearing it from people that are saying, this is what we're doing, this is how we're doing it, that's very impactful. So, you know, those panels were really cool, really powerful, I think. But it's also nice you get some of that product management and development in there. You get to hear sort of some of behind the curtains of what's going on and how it's getting done. You get some of that insight in there. So I don't know. I thought there was a really great cross section of information that still would let you kind of like tailor your experience to, you know, things or topics that you're interested in, but then also still get a wide and a narrow view at the same time. You know, some of them got fairly far into the weeds with interesting things that people who are into that type of thing would be interested in, right? Because you can. It's a targeted session. But then you still get some of the high level, like this is what's coming down the road, and this is what is available, you know, some of the just software side of things. So I really enjoyed those domain sessions.
I did too. I would echo a lot of what you said. The word that comes to mind for me was sort of breathability of the content, right? Because you think about general session, usually, you know, the big stage, and it's like this at a lot of conferences, right? Where you have these sort of offshoot activities, like you can go to technical sessions, but then you have your keynotes and your announcements, right, on the big stages. it was really great that each area, no matter what you're interested in, you had a way to, like you said, a panel discussion between industry experts. Like manufacturing, we had Titan Gilroy, we had Megan Ziemba from Maven's Manufacturing, which is an outstanding podcast and initiative. We had Todd White, Metalworks with Sailor, and all those people with different experiences in the same panel. And they're able to just let the content breathe and talk about what the manufacturing industry is and how it's evolving, how it's changing.
Barb and Ashley and Jeff were in there. That was, they were, I thought they were all really good.
So cool. And then on the design end, we think of World as it evolved out of SolidWorks World, and we took all the SolidWorks stuff and now we're adding more stuff even on top of that. But design having its own space where we're just talking about design apps. We're talking about SolidWorks, 3D CAD. We're talking about X Design. We're talking about X Shape. Seeing someone like Kirby Downey, on stage, and how he's talking about how, with the Maker offer, he's using X Shape sometimes with some projects, and then sometimes he's using SolidWorks 3D CAD, and sometimes he's using both together. It's like you get a perspective on how are people actually using this stuff. Like you said, we can give you industry inspired test cases from ourselves of how you might use these products together. And we can bring industry members on, every now and then to talk about that themselves. But World is just like all of it, all at once.
Super concentrated. Yep.
Yeah. So, but some of the stuff, like when you think about it, big announcements, like really big announcements that affect a lot of different, like almost all of us, right? Especially when you think about SolidWorks users, there were some announcements that we couldn't split up because they were so wide reaching for the entire community, things that you really would not want to miss. GP, he had an absolutely huge announcement for SolidWorks users that you all will be seeing later this year. And we've teased this all episode in terms of announcements, and we're going to start to hear them right here. We're going to deliver right here, right now. Let's hear what GP had to share.
So given that, rolling the drums, I'd like to make a very important announcement. Now, we feel that everyone in the SolidWorks community should be taking advantage of all that 3DEXPERIENCE has to offer. Now, listen to this. Starting from July 2023, we will be including cloud services with every seat of SolidWorks. So you are free to take advantage of state-of-the-art of security, collaboration, data management, and mobility in the cloud. Isn't it amazing? Every seat of SolidWorks. I let it sink in, Anytime you want, at the pace you want, it is there for you. Anytime. For us, it is a very important decision because we feel so strongly that everyone should have the chance to explore the value that 3DEXPERIENCE Works can bring to the entire SolidWorks community, just like Ocean-based or We Are from Milan were able to do.
So you guys might be thinking, is that it? Is that all we're going to hear on live about this huge announcement? Like GP said, this is coming a lot of our ways in July, but is that it? No way, right? Jesse, you would check me on that. We have to talk about this. We have to talk about this heading into especially later parts of this year. And Jesse, you've been on them. You've been on these episodes. We do the technical deep dives with every SolidWorks, every 3DEXPERIENCE Works related announcement, including what's new, right? Hundreds of thousands of viewers for that every year. Here on Live only. Like Live, I see a lot of times, I don't know if you would agree, but like Live is sort of like the bridge between 3DEXPERIENCE worlds. Like it is the stage where we release, that's how I think of it. It's like, that's where we try to do deep dives and, not only have the announcement, we're really getting into like the technical nitty gritty at times, right?
Yeah.
So be sure.
A great way to put it.
Yeah, I mean I think it's a necessity, especially with all the things that we're releasing and all the things you guys are doing out there in the community. But all that to say, be sure to subscribe. We are going to be back in June, so we'll have episodes every month. But in June specifically, we're planning right before the release of this momentous change. You'll get exactly that. An episode all dedicated to what GP was mentioning, to tell you the exact hows and whats of this exciting new change. But Jesse, while we're on the topic of announcements, right, and while we're on the topic of SolidWorks specifically, we've been showcasing at World a preview of what's new, right, with Don't Miss This demo for so many, I don't know how many years, like just so many years now. What what were some of your favorite parts of the skit this year, and what you saw at a preview level for SolidWorks 2024? I cannot believe it's like that's coming out, like SolidWorks 2024. But what were some of your favorite parts?
How do you even pick favorite parts out of that? I watched that whole thing probably 5 times through. I really loved the skit this year. The script was amazing. I mean, there's so many good one-liners in there. I like, Indiana Jones to begin with, so it's just hilarious. Like, mice, why did it have to be called mice? It's so good. I enjoyed the film sections. Obviously, it's just at its core, it's a fun way to share what's coming up. So, the new functionality is just a vehicle for that. So, that's cool. But, I thought they did an amazing job. And like I said, just, seeing the guys on stage enjoying it, that was really, really fun. Don't move 1/10 of a millimeter. What is that in inches? So many fun lines in there, but it was really cool. And obviously you got a cool role in it, in that you got to kind of like reveal, right, the legend of Mark Schneider in there. Gee, Dr. Jones, your fun little appearance. That was cool. So cool seeing Mark back in there. I mean, functionality, even small things like the whole wizard reusing sketches again, like that's really cool. I would definitely have used that in the past, where like normally you'd have to like go in and make dedicated sketches, but grab a sketch, instances to skip for the whole wizard. The untrimmed surface that Mark Peterson showed was awesome. Insert a assembly into a part. I'm like, as soon as I saw that, I'm like starting to like, your brain starts racking like, oh man, you could use that a whole bunch of different ways. That's an interesting one. There's tons. Select flexible sub-assemblies, I think, was one in there. That was a cool one. There was a ton of stuff in there. We could just spend the rest of the episode talking about Platform Jones, I think.
Well, the cool thing is, I think for all of us, we'd say for attendees here, I think for you and I, Jesse, specifically, for a lot of the members of the Don't Miss This Demo crew from this year, that will literally be our jobs like later on this year.
Yep.
That's
like absolutely true.
Yeah, like I mentioned, we're really grateful and lucky that hundreds of thousands of you watched the What's New episodes on the SolidWorks YouTube channel. We have the What's New with 3D Experience Works on the 3D Experience Works channel, but we'll be back in the fall, like we always are, for the SolidWorks 2024 reveal. A lot of what we saw, during that fun skit, and those like weirdly applied ways that we had to make it fit into that sort of Indiana Jones themed story. We'll have more relevant use cases for the features. That were inspired by you guys, of course, who suggested so many of them, and also many more features and many more products. I never like to give anyone the impression that like what you see is what you get from that single bit. Like we all know, the What's New documentation is hundreds of pages. That's just like a sneak peek of some of the stuff, but surely we'll have more. But Jesse, I have to say once again, like I wouldn't have picked anyone else as my co-host. I hope, for the rest of you watching, like I hope that the two of us, equally along, I have to say, with our guy, our live producer, Ian Adair, that we really planned a lot of Live at 3D Experience World, and I hope that we gave you all a show that you'll be checking back on, not just now and not just a few days from now, but all throughout the calendar year. We interviewed like 75 industry leaders over the course of 3 days, 8+ hours a day or so of programming. It's all still online, but once again, Jesse, thank you so much for your efforts at the show and for hanging out with us here on Live again.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, same back to you. I had so much fun doing Live, and it was a ton of fun, like you say, trying to distill all of the things that are going on and try to get as much as we can out to the audience as possible. It was a blast. I'm ready. Like I said, I'm ready to do it again right now.
Yes. All right. Thanks a lot, man. Okay. So we teased it earlier. Big foam check, $30,000. We saw it. We revealed part of it, that it was given to Magic Wheelchair, but now we are really about to nerd out. We made some fun action figures, 30 of them in tandem, that we gave away. We gave them away to attendees. So to talk to us about how you can get involved with Magic Wheelchair, what it is, how he made toys as a job somehow for a good cause for at the end of last year, heading into Worlds, as part of his job anyway. Let's welcome on with clapping emojis here in the chat on LinkedIn, on YouTube, Mr. Noah Zeef. Noah, how's it going?
It's going great, Sean. Happy to be here. And yeah, pretty psyched I got to design toys for a job. Yeah.
Yeah, I still don't know how you did it. Well, I guess we do. Well, you will tell us how you did it. But Noah, at World this year, we gave away, I just mentioned it, gave away a limited edition set of 30 action figures to correspond with a truly special donation to an organization that we've referred to all throughout this episode called Magic Wheelchair. Can you tell us a little bit today about Magic Wheelchair and all that went on there?
Yeah, absolutely. So Magic Wheelchair is a nonprofit organization that builds these absolutely epic costumes for children in wheelchairs at no cost to families. And we've been very fortunate enough to partner with them over the last 5 years on these incredible projects. We've been able to provide the software that helps them design these chairs. We've also had DS employees directly involved with these projects as well. And just to strengthen that relationship even further, this year we were able to donate $30,000 to that organization and their incredible cause. So to celebrate that donation and the superheroes that work at Magic Wheelchair, we designed our own superhero giveaways that promote the same design software that's been used to create some of those chairs over the years.
It's just so awesome. We saw the giveaway. It was great to catch up with Christine and Scotty and everyone involved with Magic Wheelchair at the event. But particular to the action figures, let's talk about those. How did we see a lot on live? We talked about it with Jesse. We talked about design and everything else that goes into making products, but sometimes it's just making fun stuff, right? What about the action figures though? Let's start with the design process. How did that go? Let's get into some details.
Yeah, well, it really was a group effort from a bunch of really passionate people. There were a lot of phases. When we started off with the design phase, it really wasn't even a question. When we first took a look at these models, we knew this was a job for X-Shape, because seeing the curvature of the faces and the muscles of these figures, we knew they were going to have to be sculpted. And the subdivision capabilities in X-Shape kind of gave us that digital ball of clay that we could push and pull until we got that humanoid shape. Plus, using the X-Apps, we could seamlessly transition from subdivision modeling in X-Shape to parametric modeling in X-Design. So without ever leaving our browser, we quickly had access to all those familiar SOLIDWORKS tools like Extrude, Revolve, and that way we could quickly take an organic-looking shape like a muscle and precisely add in an elbow joint or a shoulder joint and ultimately make a fully functioning action figure.
So cool. And like you said, fully functioning action figure. Let's talk a little bit more about some of the other aspects, extending beyond design, like manufacturing, assembly. Like, what are some of the details that we can share there?
Yeah, so when it came to manufacturing, it was really important for us to make it so that anyone and everyone could make one of these if they wanted to, because we knew we weren't going to be able to give away one of these to every single attendee at 3D Experience World. So pretty much all the parts, I keep saying pretty much, but yeah, all the parts were designed to be printed on regular desktop extrusion 3D printers. We made some clever design choices to make the body look like they were printed in full color, but really they were printed in individual parts and then assembled together, because that's what most desktop 3D printers can handle. We did opt to print the head with a special full color technology because we wanted the giveaways to look as professional as possible. We did that with Palitra 3D, so shout out to them. Feel free to reach out to them if you want to do the same with your action figure. And thanks to the foresight we put in the design phase, the assembly phase came a lot easier. So we actually designed and 3D printed guides to help assemble the 3D printed parts. And we also 3D printed fixtures that went into the packaging itself to secure the action figure. And finally, when it came to that packaging, we had some great help from our marketing team to make the logos and the branding, really pop. And it ultimately came out to something we were really proud of. So again, all these files, including the guides and fixtures, they're all public. So we encourage everyone to download them, print them, and test your manufacturing skills.
Yeah, this is an awesome perk, I think, of watching this episode. So if you go, it's basically a redirect link. So if you go to solidworks.com/actionfigure.stl, that'll take you to a 3D swim community where you can see a little bit more of a synopsis of what Noah and Gian made. But also you can download the files, right? And like you said, Noah, we 3D printed them, assembled them, so you can give it a try yourself. But as far as the giveaway portion goes, knowing you, I know we didn't just throw these into a crowd. First of all, people might get hurt. Can't do that. But we had to make the giveaways fun and applicable. So what are some of the things that we did there for in-person attendees? How do we structure the giveaways? Do we do a guess a number contest? Do we do a short straw contest? How do we manage that?
Yeah, so as fun as it would have been to throw out the action figures and see them crowd surf into the sea of people, we did have a strategic approach to it. So we tied the giveaway to really the design and manufacturing process of them. So similar to how when you see a jar of candy and you try to count or give a guess as to how many candies are in the jar without actually opening it up, we displayed these action figures and had people look at them and guess the answers to questions based on their design and manufacturing. So day one was all about design. So we asked questions like, how many features or how many sketches do you think it took to create this model? And then day two was all about manufacturing questions. So how many layers do you think it took to 3D print them? How much material? How much time? And things like that. So having some background knowledge on just general 3D design and additive manufacturing definitely would have helped you in this competition.
Yeah, just looking at some of the questions here. I mean, these are actual questions, right? That just displayed on the stream here that we asked potential winners, I guess contest entrants, during the conference. But when you think about how many sketches, and then you think about, okay, how is this made using sub D bodies that you just push and pull? You put in a primitive and then you kind of shape it, right? You sculpt it. That question becomes pretty hard to answer. You probably surely say, if you just did it in XDesign or if you just did it in SOLIDWORKS 3D CAD, right, with solid modeling, parametric, sketch-based solid modeling features, probably way more. But it's trying to balance that, and that's pretty difficult. So at the table that we had, right, we did have the model loaded up. You couldn't see certain aspects of it, I think, in 3D Play, which is a viewer application. So you could kind of get, maneuver around and, check some things out. But yeah, these weren't exactly easy. So you kind of had to earn it.
Right. Yeah, that's exactly right. And I think you hit it on the head when you said the answers would surprise some users because we had subdivision modeling. If you did this with parametric SOLIDWORKS, you'd have a whole lot more features, extrusions, lofts, surfaces. So the subdivision modeling really came in handy in this project.
For sure. So no, thanks so much for going on. But before we go, one of the things I wanted to ask you personally, and you can't talk about these xWorks action figures. Which, by the way, if you guys go on YouTube now and just search SolidWorks Live xWorks, you'll see a full episode dedicated to all of the X apps. Everything included in the SolidWorks Cloud Bundle, where you can just buy them a la carte as well. But you can check that out. That's still there, just about a year old, so everything's still pretty fresh. So you could look at that now. But Jesse, or I'm sorry, no, you can't say the X apps. You can't say the xWorks figures. You can't say Magic Wheelchair even for this question. So you ready?
Let's do it. That's fair. I could talk about those all day, so I understand. Yeah.
So what was for you, Noah, as a human being, as just you, what really got you excited? What was like the big highlight of your overall conference experience?
Yeah, so it was my first conference, so all of it was so new, and it was really eye-opening to me. The first highlight was just seeing all the different ways SOLIDWORKS is being kind of used in the wild, in all the different industries, all the different projects, things I would never even expect.
Yeah.
And beyond that, with my background in additive, I really got a kick out of seeing some of these high-quality machines just in real life. So seeing the Markforged printer printing in carbon fiber, and then near my booth, near the Model Mania booth, there was a desktop metal machine going. So that was just so cool to see. And I also got to see kind of a 3D printing celebrity in my eyes, Greg from Layer 1. He's at Nexa 3D. And some of his 3D prints have gone viral online. And he actually brought them to the booth. So I got to see those in person. I got to chat with him in person about those models. So that was definitely a highlight for me to meet him and see those machines.
Yeah, for sure. That's one of the cool things about going to a conference like 3D Experience World, where you have so many leaders of different parts of the world, really. You could just walk by someone and be like, wait, is that?
Yeah, that's literally how it happened, too. I saw him and I was like, I actually at the Bash on Broadway. So I got to see him, and then we got...
Told me that. That's right.
Yeah, we got to have a great time. Yeah.
I walked up to Jeremy Fielding, who's another, really accomplished YouTuber that makes all these crazy mechanical projects, and he uses SolidWorks, right? But yeah, I know Jeremy personally, so I walked up to him and he wasn't looking, and I said, "Hi, are you Jeremy Fielding?" And he said, "Oh, yeah." He's like, "Ah, you got me." He was just surprised. He was like, I should have known that you were going to get me with that at some point, because he was like, I knew I was going to see you, but I acted like I am a fan, but I act like I was a fan who had never met him.
Oh, that's awesome. But that's what it's all about, getting to meet kind of these almost our community celebrities in real life.
For sure. And live, right? We're on live today. Live's all about, in my eyes, we talked about this with Jesse. It's about getting a high level overview of some of the cool things that we have going on here and within the community. But, as we end this conversation here, Noah, you have some plans to do deep dives, right? Deep dives into the design methods as well as the manufacturing, right? The manufacturing and assembly methods that were involved in the action figures you just talked about on live design soon, right?
Yeah, that's exactly right. So we're going to be taking 2 deep dives with this action figure model, one on design and one on manufacturing.
Okay.
The design portion, I'm super excited to talk with the master sculptor himself, Gian Calise, next week, which is going to be part 1 of a 2-part series. And for that, Gian's just going to tell us his sculpting process and how he conjured this lifelike, humanoid shape out of really nothing but a 2D image, a 2D reference. So that's going to be really impressive to see that episode. And then for the manufacturing portion, that's going to be on May 19th. And for there, I'll take a deep dive into really how these parts were printed, what print settings we used, what layer heights, how we managed to print these things with absolutely no support. There were also a lot of assembly tricks we used in the assemblies of these models, and we want to share them all with you. So tune into that episode as well.
That's so cool. All right, no, thanks so much for jumping on. And like you said, we'll see you next Friday on the SolidWorks YouTube channel for your episode of Live Design. Thanks again.
Thanks, Sean.
All right, everyone. Thank you to Jesse, Joe, Noah, our live producer, Ian. Thank you to our production team at Kramer. Thank you to everyone, really, who had a part in the overall live event at 3D Experience World. And, of course, all of you hopeful subscribers, everyone who attended today, thank you so much for doing so. And, hey, before we go, and this is hot off the presses here, Matthew Hall. So he's a community manager on the SolidWorks side. He's from the community team, right? He's informed me that we've just posted. He just sent me this message. We just posted many of the presentations from 3D Experience World 2023, the technical presentations directly on the SolidWorks news and info community. So this is a great chance just to distill this down. It's a great chance to check out bits of the massive community knowledge share that happened just 1 month ago. So you can check this link out. Just, this link right here, we can send it in the chat. So it's go.3ds.com/3DXW23 replays. And you can check them all out. So it's an outstanding resource. And just like Noah and I just talked about, we were just kicking off our live schedule this year, live designing, simulations, manufacturing, data management tips and tricks. From not only us, but you, our user community. A lot of you guys are featured in these episodes beginning last year, which was hugely successful. I have people, LinkedIn messaging me, asking to be on the program. I'm so grateful for that. So glad you guys get a lot out of that, for sure. And I can say even through like June, July already of this year, we have some amazing worldwide presenters lined up. So be sure to subscribe. Just one click. That's all you have to do. Subscribe right now to both the SolidWorks YouTube channel and where you are right now, watching this episode, the 3D Experience Works YouTube channel. So we'll be back with you on the SolidWorks channel for some action figure designing next week, just like we have here on this slide. I cannot wait for this episode. Can't wait to watch Noah and Gian and see you guys then. But for now, take care, and we will see you soon.
World 2023.
We are here to be inspired and to push the limits of our own imagination.
The virtual twin being experienced is so important, not only to understand the invisible today, but to project the future of tomorrow.
You are a community of 7 million designers, engineers, students, entrepreneurs who are shaping the world around us.
SOLIDWORKS allowed me to take what was in my brain and build it into something that millions and millions of people now can use.
Well, there's a whole lot more to SOLIDWORKS than I thought there was.
It's actually quite nice to be able to raise your hand, ask a question, and learn hands-on with people.
What I mostly came here for was to learn new ways to use SOLIDWORKS in ways that I haven't thought of before.
The 3D experience is growing, and the SOLIDWORKS community is coming together. It's fantastic every year.
We have built the 3D Experience board to meet all your needs. At Dassault Systèmes, we believe in building long-term relationships, and together we are going to change the world.
Every day we see SOLIDWORKS customers wanting to improve their core competencies in design and engineering, manufacture, communication, collaboration. And it's all for one reason. They want to deliver to their customers the best, most innovative product they can.
This building is 900,000 square foot. All those products are built in that one building.
Being able to use the factory flow simulation allows us to show those opportunities to those business unit leaders.
I know that you collectively can make a huge impact to our lives and to all those around us, a huge impact on the planet, a huge impact on the future. The end game, guys, is to improve life itself.